And let's get ready to rumble with Skari. The crowd goes wild. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Show, the first Monday show of the new year. I hope you're all having a great time. I'm Skari, your grateful host, and this is a show I do every Monday for the patrons. Of course, it is a new year, and every once in a while, I do an open show for all of you to enjoy. Today we're going to be talking about Old World. We're going to be talking about releases. We're going to be talking about patron questions that have been posted on the patron page, which I answer. And I had a 2-week holiday, which was fabulous. I'm currently working on some Necromunda stuff, which is really, really fun as well, because we're doing a 7-person or 8-person Necromunda campaign at the local shop, Tabletop Forge, which I'm really excited about. And all in all, 2024 has started off with a bang. So I'm really excited about that. And I hope you're all doing well. It's starting to get cold. It's starting to snow here in Canada, although it's probably one of the warmest winters on record, I'd like to say. Which is weird when you think about it, because it's supposed to be like super cold. And of course, we're here with you with chat. So if you're down in chat, let me know where you're coming down from. If you didn't catch the video live, let me know. Say hi from your country or wherever it is that you came down from. And what time is it where you're at? It's about 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in lovely Ontario, Canada, which is where I'm coming from. I just filmed a battle report today. I ran my competitive Drukhari against competitive anti-vanilla style World Eater list. That was really fun. So that'll be coming out on Thursday. Friday, this Friday. And then we're back on schedule. We also had our first Old World battle report in collaboration with Eric's Hobby Workshop, who's down near Toronto as well. That was really cool. So make sure you watch that. Folks are really enjoying that Old World content. And yeah, so this show is a chance for me to open up and talk to all of you, answer your questions. If you have any that you posted on here, I read them out. If not, we've got chat, and I discuss a variety of things. There's nothing really off topic other than like silly topics that polarize people, like, you know, whether or not Magnus did things wrong, which I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole, okay, because Magnus definitely did everything wrong. He knew better, okay? But hello, welcome. Thanks all for coming to hang out. I've got a couple of projects on the go. Games Workshop sent me this Lancer quite a while back, and I hadn't really gotten any paint on it, but I'm slowly going to do a checkerboard pattern like red and I think white, just keeping it like so it fits with my Black Templars very well, which I'm really excited. I get to go down to mini wargaming this week and play some games. So I'm going to go for 3 days this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I've got coaching calls that I've been kind of getting ready to rock and roll and stuff, everything. So, it's like it feels great. And hello and welcome, everyone. So, Maxwell. Hello, Maxwell. How's it going, mate? Good. Thank you very much for asking. I'm having a great time. You know, it's one of those things where I feel like I talk really fast when I do these things, and maybe I do, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry I talk way too quickly sometimes for all of your sakes. Maybe I could slow down and my ADD brain can kind of catch up. Yan Suhai says, good evening. Good evening. Welcome. Thanks for coming to say hi. Good afternoon. Happy New Year. Hello, Alex. Happy New Year to you as well. I know. Can you imagine? It's already the 8th of January. Whew. 8th of January. Too much coffee. I had 1 cup of tea today. 2 cups of tea today. There's not a lot of coffee in that. Hello, everyone. 4 minutes before my next class, says Nikki. Hello, Nikki. Welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out. Bo says, hi, everyone. Hello, Bo. Jian Kun says, what's much love to you? Thanks for coming to hang out as well. And Nikki's just saying hi to people in the chat. Hey, what's going on? Bluvik Kink and Maxwell says, I forgot to ask a question on the Discord, but maybe you can put a comment on the current state of Custodes. Yeah, we can definitely talk about Custodes. 3 cups of hot water. Oh yeah. I'm now the Count. Are you saying I'm like the Count? If you want to laugh, Google or on YouTube, find The Count Censored or whatever. And it's like an old YouTube video, very old. It's grainy as all hell, like from original YouTube content. And he literally, it's just censored in the wrong spots. And it's just funny censorship, just makes him feel, it's the Count being funny. Hello, says Erasmus. Hello. How is playing Old World New Rules like? Well, that is a great segue into the first topic of today. 8 minutes of banter as is standard. Yeah, let's talk about the Old World. The Old World has been fantastic. Like, I played a lot of Warhammer Fantasy in 6th edition and 7th edition. I didn't play too much in 8th, and then I played a little bit when the world was going to just be destroyed or whatever back in like the fall of the old world, and or the end times, I think it was what it was called. And I remember being very like meh about 8th edition because I basically had like an army that was bricks of 20 skeletons or 30 skeletons. I had like a few things here and there, and then 8th edition had changed it to you had to have big hordes of infantry and like spells really powerful, and it felt really wacky, and I remember never really getting into 8th edition. Now recently I went to an 8th edition GT, the square-based GT. Make sure you check out Simon and the Honest Wargamer, who's doing a little YouTube channel called Square Based, where they talk about old world and stuff like that, and it was really fun. I had a blast, but also because I had access to the mini wargaming studio army, which meant that I was able to build a Tomb King army like I wish I would have been able to back when I was starting, basically. So it was a great time to be able to pick and choose all the really cool units, and a big brick of archers with Khalida, which I never got to do because I only owned 30 archers, and I knew to build a big one I needed like 50 to 100 archers to really make it work, and that's something I just never got to do. So in comparison, the old world that they just are, it's on pre-release right now, and a huge shout out to Games Workshop for sending me all the old rule books and stuff, and a Tomb King set and like the cards and everything, so I can show it off to all of you. I will be doing some more videos on the old world, guaranteed. Old world is awesome. They took all of the wacky stuff from 8th, kind of like cycled through it. We're like, this was too crazy. And then they brought back a lot of the classic rule mechanics from 5th, 6th, and 7th edition, which is when I played the game. That was like 20 years ago. So a lot of it feels like I have just didn't stop playing the game. You know, how rank and file works, the combat resolutions, line of sight especially, because now, you know, regiments and things block line of sight to each other. Whereas in 8th, they made it very user-friendly, and they're like, everything can see everything with true line of sight, and it made shooting very powerful, and it was like, and the missions were kind of like just straight up kill each other. And then the spells were just out of this world, where if you were in doubt and you just needed a break, you rolled 6 dice at a spell and hoped for double 6, and your opponent could do nothing about it, right? And that sucked. But spell casting is a lot better and more mechanically, I want to say, makes more sense. They're like abilities that your like characters, like spellcasters, can use in different phases. You've got regiments are great, but you like big regiments may get to fight more, but there's not like the steadfast is gone, which is the stupidest rule. It was so dumb. Hello, Stevie. What's going on? Hey, Foz. Hey, Sindri. Oh man, it's like everybody's hanging out today, which is great. And it was like a great time, but it was definitely very like polarizing. Anyway, so Old World was great. I've played a couple of games against Bretonnians. I cannot wait to play against the different factions, Empire, Wars of Chaos, like all the different factions, elves, that sort of thing. One of the things I really like is the way initiative works now, where like charging gives you a bonus to initiative, and then you still fight on initiative. And so now, like, if I'm charging with skeletons, I can make my skeletons like initiative 5 and stuff, so they can hit at like they can actually hit stuff that's high initiative now before just getting completely destroyed. So like setting up charges is a lot more useful, and there's a whole variety of really cool things. All in all, I'm really happy with what I've seen in the old world. Now, like any game, the old world can very much be twisted into sort of like power gamed, and you can do that with any game. Um, and I feel like that's going to be a very like I don't think they'll really release too many FAQs for the game. It's more like a nostalgia game, but I feel most people who pick it up and want to play it have been playing forever, and the community will be very self-policing. And I kind of like that idea. Like, even at events and stuff, they'll probably comp documents and things like that pop up to be like, don't be a jerk, don't run this specific thing because it's not fun for anyone else. So some stuff like that. And I think that overall they did a good job. It feels right. It feels like the old grindy game with a couple of new mechanics in there. So it's a different edition of the game, but it feels very classic-y. And I really, really enjoyed playing a couple of games with it as well, which is really, really cool. But that's a great question, Erasmus. Thank you so much. So let's kind of do one of the ones. Let's do another one from the chat here. Jiankun says, what's your most anticipated change and what's your most wanted change for a January update for Warhammer 40,000? I've watched a few old world bat reps. Do you find the melee resolution a bit time consuming and complex? Oh, so two different questions. So what's my most wanted change for January? I want the Dark Eldar detachment to do something. Anything. Anything at all. Right now, it just gives you pain tokens for taking characters. It is the most pointless detachment ever. The faction rule, great, very powerful. Rerolls, amazing. But the detachment, terrible. That is like my number one thing. I just want the Dark Eldar detachment to do something. Please. Anything at all. Just praying to Vect that he shines a light upon us real space raiders as well. So, do you find the melee resolution a big time consuming complex? No, I don't. For old world melee resolution, once you get the hang of it, it's really easy. You're like, okay, I charge, that's one. I get a rank bonus. 2, I'm a close order. 3, I did so many wounds, and then you subtract what your opponent did, and the banner, and that's it. And it's very, very simple. Like, it's once you get the hang of it, it's not complicated. Because you just what you do is you just visualize it with dice. You go dice, 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 dice. My combat res is 8. Your combat res is 6. I win by 2. You take leadership with a 2 modifier, right? And that's it. Super simple. And then you have to remember now whether you fall back in good order, you give ground, or you route, right? So there's the 3 different stages that you can your units can route a little bit now, which is actually very interesting. I really like that mechanic because it means that you can charge, push your unit back, or force them to give ground, or they fall back in good order, but then you can recharge again. Then you can make them give ground again, and then you can reform your unit and hit a flank. So you can actually make the whole battle lines get all messed up. It's awesome. It's very gritty, and I like that sort of mechanic for a line up in regiments kind of game because you can really flip the game, which is really cool. Yan Suhai says, I'm sad to see the Dark Elves won't get a book or models. Yeah, I know. They did say these legacy armies are not going to be supported, which makes sense. At some point, they have to be like, look, we made the game. We're not going to be able to invest more, but that's a business decision. But I'm sure folks in the community will keep it alive. So do not fret. There will be codexes, and there will be, I'm not codex, army books, and there will be stuff that I'm sure the community will keep those factions alive. And then for units, and there's probably going to be 3D prints and stuff, don't worry about it. Also glad because that means I don't have to buy anymore. You have to buy the new stuff, okay. But yes, that is true. Hello, who took my dice? What's going on? Hero Hammer was a problem back in the day with old school fantasy. Yeah, Hero Hammer has always been sort of an issue. They did tackle that a little bit. They've capped the armor saves that people can take. They've capped the ward saves. There's not really a 4-up ward save item anymore. Heroes are still the centerpiece of the army. They're heroes, but they die a lot faster than you think. And they've toned down a lot of the magic items. So a lot of absolutely take magic items, just they're a little different now. So are heroes still a big deal? Yes. Will they be hero hammery? You could probably build a hero hammer. Like there's probably ways to build crazy heroes. However, time will tell, right? We'll see. The more people play and develop lists and concepts and different combinations of war gear, and that's one of the things I loved about it, was like there was these really cool combos you could make with magic items and whatever. But now that the magic items are like open list, like now it's like you build a list and all the magic items are like on your list and you share that with your opponent. They've taken away the whole like secret list. So now at least you know what your opponent is bringing, so you can like plan around it instead of like running into combat and then being like, okay, well, let's find out what this hero has while the hero beat the crap out of your unit, right? So there's a nice sort of like wiggle room in the middle there, which is good. Okay, so I'll get to your question in a second, Erasmus. Let's go to the patron question. So thanks a lot. There are 2 ways that you can post a question for the Monday show normally. One, I put a thread on the Patreon page. The link is down below if you want to support me on Patreon. And I compile them every week. And there's a Discord. Patrons get access to a bonus Discord where we have Thursday night computer game nights where we hang out and play Gladius or Dawn of War or some computer game, usually Gladius 40K, and we just all hang out. There's like 6 or 8 of us playing. So that's a thing we do Thursday nights. We do hobby hangouts. There's also a bunch of places to talk about events and battle reports. Anyway, it's a cool, awesome Denizen community on the Discord. You get access to that for becoming a patron. And then there's also a spot to put in some clinic questions, aka the Monday show questions. Okay, so Archon Eric asks, "Hello, Master." Well, that's less of a question and more of a statement. Hello, Archon Eric. I had fun yesterday playing against Astra Militar. He had no vehicles, just over 250 models. Gross. Have you ever played against that in a tournament? How would you adapt your play with your list of 3 of everything full of Dark Lances and Haywire? Thanks. That's a great question. So, especially when you're playing against like a horde of, we have a tournament now too. Yeah, we're doing a TTS like league tournament in the Discord, which is great. Thank you so much to Evan and Cosmic for like thinking about it and organizing it and putting it up, which is great. It's going to be 1 game every 2 weeks, 4 rounds. There's 25 spots, and it's filling up. So that's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited. Actually, that's going to be really fun. So, how do you kill 250 models? Now, the biggest thing is to kill 1 unit at a time. That's like honestly the best thing. And then you have to understand that the best tools you have at your disposal are the tools that you probably don't use other times. So like the 4 Dark Lances are useful, but the Splinter Carbine that the Solarite has is more useful. 3 shots, right, of poison. So like that's the last model to die instead of the first one, because the Dark Lances can die, but you have 3 shots. Also, using stratagems that increase damage, like grenades and tank shock, right? Because they just get rid of additional models. So what you're doing is trying to pick 1 unit and then shoot all your, even if it's Dark Lances, you're shooting everything at 1 unit, trying to kill it, get rid of a unit, and then try a different unit. Now with Guard, it can be a little harder because they can resurrect a unit and things like that. But if you can try and kill 2 units at a time, that also works. Things like, doing, you can like turn 1 potentially shoot a bunch of different units and lower them unless they regenerate, right, or bring models back. But you can like try and like whittle a few down, shoot a shredder here, some blasters, splinter cannons. But like number 1, just try and focus your fire, get rid of tools. Number 2, a lot of the times big hordes like this don't tend to do a lot of damage. So, or they do very minimal damage. So like you can be a lot more aggressive than you think. Number 3, not all of them have the ability to like fall back and charge or fall back and shoot. So tying them up in combat is a great way of like stopping them from doing stuff. Some ways that works, sometimes it doesn't. But the key there is like the beast packs are great. For example, as a Dark Eldar, beast packs are good. They run in lots of wounds. They can tie up multiple squads. They can hold, just clog up the works while you try and focus fire and create space in the table. So I think that's like one of the most important things to keep in mind. Like pick units, make yourself space and room. Don't get pinned in, and then try and like clog up the works because they have the bodies, but that can be very unwieldy. So you want to try and like bottleneck them, clog them up, like make them not have space to move around by tying up the front unit. So then if they want to full back that unit, the other unit has a harder time finding angles. There's lots of ways you can use those numbers against them, but just something to keep in mind as well. Yeah, like, and then you have shooting and close combat. So like your Scourge, your Cavalite Warriors even, 2 attacks of strength 3, the Sergeant with a couple of attacks, like you're shooting and you're charging. So all of a sudden you're using like a phase that you wouldn't normally use into that style army because you're going to run in and you're going to just punch them and hit them and just try and kill as many. You want to try and roll as many dice as possible. Every pistol, every attack, you have to use every single tool at your disposal. Every close combat attack from your Venoms, your Raiders, like just everything, because you need every dice to try and get through that many models, essentially. And then what you try and do is you try and hold 1 or 2 objectives depending on the mission, and just try and make sure they don't stop you from scoring your primary, and like create a wall. Be like, you can crash against this wall, but I'm going to score my points. And you might not win by a lot, but at least you will get some points out of that as well. At least that's my thought process there. Thanks for the question, Archon Eric. Question number 2 from David Patton. I've watched a huge number of those obscure sports-style Netflix documentaries lately, and it's got me thinking, how good one would be for competitive Warhammer, potentially focusing on the lead up to the World Team Championship, list testing, attending GTs, adapting to the meta team composition. Not so much a question, but does this have legs? I think you could do a very similar thing like that with like any sort of esport or Warhammer or like competitive Tetris, like I think it's because it's so much about mentality, like competitive sportsmanship and mentality of being able to like push past those obstacles and having the mentality of being like, look, we lost this game, but I cannot dwell on the game that just happened. We messed it up, but we have to analyze what went wrong. We have to change it, and then we have to try again next time. And if you've watched like any of those Netflix documentaries, like Michael Jordan's one, for example, which was fantastic. I really recommend it. It's more like that sort of like grit and determination of being like, that guy pissed me off and I needed to prove a point. You know what I mean? So I just scored every point and I just didn't let him play. And like that sort of like dogged determination and tenacity to like dust yourself off and not let the naysayers kind of stop you. And it does translate very well to like competitive Warhammer, where the folks at the top of the meta are usually the ones that make the meta, right? And so when we talk about meta, yes, there's good and bad stuff, but like a good player can take whatever they want and make it meta. And as soon as they make it meta, the rest of the world sort of like catches up to their vision, if that makes sense. So having a series being able to sort of like document that, how someone takes a concept and fiddles with it and works with it, and it'd be really cool. It would kind of have to be like a third party following someone around, or like doing it so that the other person could focus on that creative process. But it is something cool. I kind of do that a little bit with like when I go to GTs and I'm like, this is a list I'm taking, this is my thought process. Then I go to a GT and I'm like, this is what I learned, and this is how I'm going to change it for next time. So, but it'd be more, I guess, in depth. But that'd be really cool. Yeah, I don't mind that at all. But thank you for your question, David. I really appreciate it. Next question is from Matthew Beavis. Says, hi, Scary. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all of you. And thank you, Matthew. Just wondering your thoughts on the delays in Golden Demon categories and UK dates. I don't really follow the Golden Demon, to be honest. Do you think this is an oversight, or does it indicate a change in direction for the company? A little left field, but I think you've been in the hobby a long time. I'd love your thoughts on this. So you're saying like it might be a change in the direction of the company to, I'm assuming, like focus more on like the competitive aspect of the game and less on like the hobby aspect of the game. Okay, fair enough. I can see how that would feel. Like I don't really know, like there are a lot of different paint events and paint tournaments or painting, I want to say competitions out there. That the Golden Demon sort of like set that standard, was like, this is the Golden Demon, right? And then there's lots like Crystal Brush, and there's so many like really prestigious painting competitions at very large like big events around the world, that it could just be a logistics thing. The guy that they're trying to revamp the scoring system, or I don't think like it is such a legacy thing. I don't think they would change it, if that makes sense. Golden Demon is so ingrained in the Games Workshop culture that I don't think it would be something that they would sort of like abandon. There's like a whole wall in the Warhammer world that is like Golden Demon winners. You know what I mean? Like that sort of stuff. Like the Slayer sword is a thing. And I feel like they do feel the hobby is a big aspect of it. And one of the reasons I don't think they're going to change sort of like their vision of the game is when you go to even the grand narrative, but also the Warhammer championship, like the World Championship of Warhammer, which just happened at least a year before. They had a pageantry display where you could take your army, display board, put it out there, and they had votes for like best in show, right? And people could vote for their armies, and ooh, I like that one, I like that one. And that's an old school Warhammer thing where you bring your army that you've been collecting, painting, converting, right? And you put it out and it looks cool on the display board, and people go, ooh, that's really neat, and I really like that effect or that color scheme you picked or that conversion. And they wanted, and from talking to some of the organizers there, they wanted to sort of encourage that more, not less, right? And I don't think they'll change that at all there. So Armies on Parade, yeah, Foz says Armies on Parade. That is a great example. You go to your local Games Workshop shop, they give you you buy into the Armies on Parade, you get like a little 2x2 thing, and you can literally do whatever you want with that 2x2 tile. You build an army, you collect it, you paint it, you display it, and it becomes this cool thing, right? And that's a great example, Foz. Yeah, thank you so much. Hello, Tabletop Live. What's going on? Good questions and great answers. Fist bump to you too. Which, by the way, you guys have to get in touch with me about coming to the Berry Bash. Now that we're in the new year, let's iron out the details. 9th and 10th of March in Barrie, Ontario. So come on down, and we'll be having it streamed by Tabletop Live. So really excited about that. It's a GT that I've been running for 10 years? Is it 10-year anniversary this year? Whew, a decade of gaming. That's exciting. Yeah, Rich Checkmaker. Yeah, and I took that personally. It's really funny because that sort of chip on your shoulder makes such a difference when you're doing any sort of competitive play. And it doesn't mean be an asshole or be not a sportsman. Like, you can still be very much a sportsman, but you are 100% allowed to motivate yourself with a chip on your shoulder. You know, that gut, and that's something that actually motivates me more than anything. People telling me the Dark Eldar are terrible. People telling me that unit is the worst unit. I will prove you wrong. I will prove you wrong, and I will take that personally. And I will put it to the test and show you why you're wrong, right? So I find that a lot of that, creative motivation comes from me wanting to do something cool, and then someone say, you can't do that, you're silly, and me being like, just watch me, you know what I mean? And I enjoy that style. That's very motivating for me. A chip on your shoulder is always better when it's catch up. Yeah, you gotta catch up to the meta. Ha! Get it? But thank you for the question, Matthew. Really appreciate it. Lane DeLong asks, I have an interesting tournament format coming up. It's 4x2 doubles. Yeah, that's a Adepticon style doubles. You have 1,000-person points, and they're each divided into 4 armies of 1,000 points, and you pair up into twos. Your captain always plays the opponent captain, etc. Yes, it's Adepticon style doubles. So 1 round, 3-round RTT, but I have a 4-player team. Each player brings 1,000 points, and throughout the 3 rounds, I will play 1 game paired with each of my teammates. Yes, so that's very much Adepticon teams. Any advice on list building for a doubles type event? So from what I know, for the Adepticon style team tournament, is you have to read the missions. Read the missions that you will be playing. Because there are a couple of missions in that mission pack, and if this is Adepticon style, like I don't know if you're what format of missions you're playing, but in Adepticon there are a couple of missions which are wacky, and one of them, or one of the mission rules that you might play, is you can only hold an objective or count as holding it if you have one unit from each of your players on that objective. Which, by the way, can mean that if someone gets too aggressive and they wipe out your ally, you will no longer be able to score points. So what I would recommend is try and make lists that mesh well together without being too skewed. Like, because a lot of the times people would be like, well, I'm going to take all the shooting and I'm going to take all the combat. Or I'm going to take all the tough stuff and I'll take all the weak stuff. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really work too well. What you need to do is pick like a couple of good units, split them. And it works very, very well if you all run the same faction. But if you run like different factions, then it becomes a little bit more complicated. Because if you did like Space Marines split into 4,000 point armies, then you can kind of go, okay, well, you know, if we want to, every time we play 2,000 points and have as many combinations as possible, we want to try and make like what looks like a competitive Space Marine army, right? And you try and like split it up with things like that as well. And so have a decent amount of tanky troops, right? Have some fire support, right? In each list, have maybe a fast unit in each list, have a tanky unit, a reserve unit, something that's technical, so that when you combine them together, you have 2 technical units, 2 deep strike units, 2 killy units in combat, 2 shooty units. Like, try and make sure that no matter how you mix them, you've got like stuff that can shoot, stuff that can fight, stuff that can hold objectives. Stuff that can kill transports, stuff that can screen the enemy's deep striking or reserve moves or things like that as well, right? So just something to keep in mind, Lane. Hopefully that helps as well. Black says, Blivik Kink says, I tried out Dark Eldar because of your videos and they felt so good to play. Well, I'm really happy to hear that. That's awesome. I'm trying to make a Dark Angel army similar to how they play now. Ha! Awesome. And I'm trying 3x6 Ravenwing Black Knights. Yeah, Black Knights, they're like expensive, but they do have some cool stuff. Like that anti-vehicle 4+ with their Corvus hammers can catch people off guard if they're not careful. I like 18 Reaver list that was in List Crunch. Yeah. The 18 Reavers, man. I feel like Ravenwing Black Knights, though, are just inherently better than Reaver jet bikes because they are better. Reaver jet bikes sadly make me sad. Like they're great in a pinch if you don't have mandrakes, but usually they just die a horrible, hideous death, and it is what it is. Well, folks, with that, we're going to call it a day. Thank you so much for hanging out for this edition of the Monday Show. This has been Season 2, Episode 20. If you'd like to know more, check the link in the description and join me on Patreon to help me create more content and videos. If you have any other questions, leave a comment down below, share the video, leave a like on the video. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps the channel get noticed. List Crunch will be this week, probably Thursday or Friday, when I get back from Mini Wargaming. My next event is going to be the team event in Montreal, which happens the last weekend of January. And next weekend is my birthday on the 14th. So don't you forget it. I expect many presents. Other than that, you're all amazing. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Here's to a fantastic 2024. And if you want to see some more old world content, go check out the battle report I did on that. And hopefully I can make more of those videos moving forward. Other than that, I've been Skary, your grateful host, signing off till next time. Skary out. The Dark Kin. Bye, everybody.